The Mont Blanc fountain pen in my hand felt heavy and cold, much like the stagnant air in the notary's office in downtown Seattle. I was only one signature away from my dream home, a small suburban villa with a white picket fence. 5 years of grinding 80 hours a week at a top-tier law firm, years of ramen dinners and solitude, all led to this exact moment. But then, the door swung open. Miller, my mortgage officer, walked in looking as pale as if he'd just seen a ghost. He didn't sit down. He just pushed a stack of papers toward me with trembling hands. "Elena, I'm so sorry. The loan was instantly rejected. Your FICO score just plummeted from 800 to 410 inches the last 3 months. The world collapsed around me to the high-pitched whine of the AC system. 410? That's the score of someone bankrupt, not me." Amidst the storm in my mind, an image of Sloane, my sister, flashed before my eyes, wearing a smirk and the brand new Chanel bag she bragged about on Instagram last night. A cold chill ran down my spine. I knew exactly who had stabbed me in the back. The Seattle rain began to pour, the droplets hitting my old Porsche's windshield like nails being driven into a coffin. I didn't go back to my cramped apartment. I drove straight to Bellevue, to the house where my mother lived, the house for which I faithfully sent mortgage payments every month. More importantly, that was where Sloane was crashing while waiting for a career opportunity that was never going to happen. As I pushed the door open, the scent of expensive lavender oil hit me the smell of pretension. Sloane was sitting at the kitchen island, sipping a glass of Premier Cru red wine. On the sofa, a glossy black YSL Lulu bag sat proudly next to a pair of brand new Louboutins. Sloane looked up, her dark red lips curling into a mocking half-smile. "Oh, look who's home! What's with that face? Shouldn't you be popping champagne in your new villa right now, my talented lawyer sister?" I didn't answer. My chest tightened, looking at the shoes she was wearing. They cost more than 2 months' salary for a regular office worker. I walked straight to the garage, where the old family storage bins were kept. My lawyer instincts told me the truth wasn't in a confrontation. It was in the paper trail. Under a pile of old newspapers and Amazon boxes, I found a small, locked metal box. I used a nearby screwdriver to pry it open. The lid popped, and reality slapped me hard in the face. Inside were stacks of envelopes from Chase, Amex, and Wells Fargo. All addressed to me, Elena Vance. But the mailing address was this house. I trembled as I flipped through the statements. A Sapphire Reserve card maxed out, a gold Amex 4 months past due. The spending appeared like a diary of ruthless leeching. $4,000 at a med spa for Botox and fillers, $12,000 at high-end boutiques downtown, and even a deposit for a new Range Rover lease. The total debt was over $85,000. Everything was clear as day. Sloane had swiped my social security number from the tax files I left at my mom's last year. She wasn't just spending my money, she was bleeding my future dry. While I pulled all-nighters over dry contracts, she was using my identity to live the life of a fake socialite. My anger didn't make me scream. It turned my blood to ice. I grabbed the documents and walked slowly back to the living room. Sloane was still smiling, fingering a gold Tiffany necklace, another piece bought with my ruined credit. I looked at her not as a sister, but as a virus consuming its host. "This game is just beginning, Sloane." I walked back into the living room, the debt statements shaking in my hand, not from fear, but from a rage that was hardening into ice. Sloane was still sitting there, sipping wine as if she owned the place. I slammed the papers onto the marble table. The sharp crack shattered the fake atmosphere. "Explain this, Sloane. Why is my name on these credit cards? Why did you steal my SSN to buy this garbage?" Sloane didn't even glance at the papers. She slowly set her glass down, her sharp eyeliner-framed eyes meeting mine with pure defiance. "You always have everything, Elena. You're a lawyer, you have a career, you're buying a villa. I have nothing. I just borrowed a little bit of your luck. Are you so selfish that you can't share with your own sister?" Just then, my mother Martha stepped out from the hallway. I expected to see shock on her face, but I didn't. She walked over, not to comfort me, but to place a protective hand on Sloane's shoulder. "Elena, stop screaming. Your sister is going through a hard time. She was just laid off. She's unstable. You should show some empathy instead of blaming her." I stood there, stunned. It felt like a bucket of ice water had been dumped on me. Empathy? Mom, do you realize she destroyed my FICO score? My home loan was rejected instantly. I worked 80 hours a week, stayed up all night with contracts to get where I am, and she burned it all down with a few swipes of a card. My mother sighed, a heavy, performative sigh. Money comes and goes, but family is forever. You're capable. You can earn it back. Don't push your sister to the edge over some debt. Are you going to call the police? Do you want me to see my daughter in a prison jumpsuit? Are you really that heartless? Seeing our mother's support, Sloane grew bolder. She stood up and leaned in close. The scent of Chanel perfume bought with my future was suffocating. She whispered in my ear, her voice as sharp as a razor. Did you hear, Mom? Good girl. You won't do anything. You're too cowardly to break this happy family image. At worst, I'll go to jail for a few years. Think of it as a vacation. But you? That house is gone. You'll be back in your cheap rental, living with this debt forever. You lost, Elena. I looked deep into her eyes, then at my mother's cold face. A deathly silence filled the room. The ache in my heart suddenly vanished, replaced by a terrifying emptiness. I realized that in this house, I wasn't a daughter. I was an ATM. And if they wanted to play a cruel game, I would teach them the price of betrayal. I didn't cry. I didn't say another word. I picked up the papers and walked out, leaving Sloane's smirk behind. They think I'll forgive them? No. I'm going to make them beg for a forgiveness they will never receive. I sat in my car with the engine off, staring at the dim suburban streetlights. In the dark, I pulled out my phone. The blue light hit my face, making me look like a stone statue. I wasn't crying anymore. Tears are for the weak. I'm a lawyer. And in America, if you can't win with morals, you win with the law and numbers. Sloane thought she won because she ruined my credit, but she forgot one thing. I know this financial system better than anyone. The next morning, I went back to the house with a Starbucks bag, Sloane's favorite drink. I walked in with slumped shoulders, my makeup carefully done to make me look like I'd been up all night, regretting everything. Sloane was sprawled on the sofa, scrolling TikTok on an iPhone 15 Pro Max that I bet was also charged to a card in my name. I thought about what Mom said all night. I said, my voice sounding convincingly raspy. Family is everything. I don't want us to fall apart over this debt. But Sloane, you have to help me. If my credit isn't restored, I won't be able to borrow money to take care of Mom or support you later. Sloane put her phone down, her eyes suspicious but gleaming with triumph. What do you want? You have no financial discipline, Sloane. The only way I can pay off this debt without calling the police is if we open a joint bank account at Chase. You'll deposit all your income from your side jobs or whatever money you get into it. I'll manage it, pay off the debt, and give you an allowance. That way, the bank sees steady cash flow, and I can negotiate the debt down. Sloane smirked, but I saw the greed in her eyes. She thought a joint account with a lawyer like me meant she'd have a secret new credit limit. Fine, if you want to be my maid that badly, she shrugged. But that wasn't all. To make this plan perfect, I needed a confession. That night, I sent her a calm iMessage. Sloane, so I can work with the bank and explain the weird signatures, confirm one last thing for me. Did you sign my name on the Amex application and the Range Rover loan? I need to know for sure, so I can tell them I gave you verbal authorization to avoid fraud charges. 2 minutes later, my phone buzzed. Yeah, I signed them. Just tell them that so there's no trouble. Thanks, sis. It's not now. I looked at the message, a faint smile touching my lips. Dear Sloane, you just signed your own warrant. On a federal level, forging signatures to steal over $50,000 isn't a family matter anymore. It's a felony. And that joint account? It's not to help you restart your life. It's a funnel for me to drain every cent of your labor to pay back what you stole. The hunt is on. Dinner at the Bellevue house was so stifling, I felt like I was breathing in coal dust. My mother, Martha, had cooked a traditional roast chicken, a scent that usually meant family warmth, but now it just made me nauseous. Sloane sat opposite me, her eyes glued to her iPhone, occasionally picking at her food with fake elegance. She had just sent me the account info for the joint account, and I could see the victory in every gesture. Elena, my mother said, her voice terrifyingly sweet as she poured more wine into my glass. I'm so glad you came to your senses. Family is all we have in this harsh country. You're a talented lawyer. You make good money helping your sister carry a little debt is only natural, isn't it? I put my fork down and looked her in the eye. A little debt? Mom, it's $85,000. That was my entire down payment. That was my future. Martha sighed and placed her hand on mine, but it wasn't warm. It was cold and calculating. You're young. You can start over. But Sloan is different. She doesn't have your sharp mind. She needs nice clothes. She needs that luxury car to network with the wealthy people in Seattle. That's how she'll find a husband. That's how she'll change her life. You expect her to work at a cafe to pay you back? Do you want to embarrass me? In that moment, I realized a truth even more bitter than Sloan's identity theft. My mother knew everything. She had stood by while Sloan used my SSN. She had seen the debt collection letters arrive and quietly destroyed them. I wasn't just an ATM for Sloan. I was a sacrificial lamb raised to fuel the vanity of these two women. Sloan looked up with a malicious half-smile. Did you hear, Mom? Stop overreacting. I agreed to the joint account, which is a huge concession on my part. Now go deal with the banks. Oh, by the way, I saw a penthouse downtown on sale. See if you can use your card for the deposit. Since your credit is already trashed, a little more debt won't hurt, right? She laughed, and my mother nodded in agreement. In that second, the last bond inside me officially snapped. I looked at them, two parasites eating my life, and felt a strange calm. I pulled out my phone, pretending to check my schedule, but I was actually checking my bank app. The joint account was active. Sloan had just transferred $5,000, a stipend, from some ex-boyfriend into it to show good faith. I understand, I said, my voice as flat as a frozen lake. I'll handle everything. I'll make sure every penny you spend from now on is accounted for. They had no idea that accounted for, in a betrayed lawyer's dictionary, meant a prison sentence with no way out. I stood up and left the table without looking back. Tonight, Project Wrecking Ball officially moved into the execution phase. I sat in my office on the 42nd floor of a skyscraper in downtown Seattle. The city lights sparkled like diamonds outside, but to me, they were just cold pixels. My computer screen didn't show client files. It showed a detailed spreadsheet of the joint account Sloan and I had opened. I took a sip of black coffee, the bitterness spreading in my mouth, the same feeling I had watching the money flow in. Sloan had just received a $15,000 payment from reselling designer items she'd bought with my credit cards. She thought that by putting that money into the joint account, she was playing nice, so I wouldn't call the cops. But she was too stupid to understand U.S. banking laws. As soon as the money hit, I had an automatic transfer set up to an escrow account I controlled under the name Financial Damage Restitution Fund. Legally, I was publicly reclaiming stolen assets, but money was only part of it. I needed total freedom, and I needed Sloan to pay on a federal level. I opened iMessage and looked at her text, admitting to the forgery. I screenshotted it, saved it to 3 different hard drives, and sent a copy to my secure email. In the U.S., identity theft involving over $50,000 can lead to 15 years in prison. And Sloan, in her blind arrogance, was filling in the missing evidence herself. To dig the hole deeper, I called her. Sloan, I'm working with Equifax and Experian to dispute the debt. To make them believe I was hacked and it wasn't a family member, I need you to sign a fake non-involvement affidavit. I'll send it via DocuSign. Just sign it. It's just a formality to wipe the debt. Sloan cackled over the phone, her voice dripping with contempt. You really are a genius, Elena. Send it over, I'll sign it. Wipe it clean so you can get good credit and buy us a house, okay? She had no clue that the affidavit was actually a trap for perjury before an official body. If she signed it, claiming she didn't make those transactions, while I had evidence of her admitting she did, Sloan would be hit with aggravated fraud. I watched the cursor blink. Every time she swiped her card, every time she posted a boastful photo, I recorded the GPS coordinates and IP address. I was cleaning up the mess she made of my credit by reporting the fraudulent transactions to the FTC, Federal Trade Commission. I gave them everything except Sloan's name until the right time. I looked at my updated credit report. The score was ticking up. I felt like a surgeon cutting out a tumor. That tumor's name was Sloan, and I wasn't leaving a single cancer cell behind. The Seattle sky turned the color of lead as the drizzle began to eat away at the city's patience. In the rented penthouse downtown that Sloan used my name to secure, the air was thick with the scent of white lilies and money. Sloan was planning her 30th birthday, an event she called Diamonds and Ice. She wanted every big player in Bellevue to see that Sloan Vance was back, richer and more powerful than ever. I sat in a leather armchair, watching Sloan twirl in front of the mirror in a hand-stitched gown from a Milanese fashion house. She had just swiped the new credit card, the one I helped her restore by reporting fake fraud to the banks. To Sloan, this was a recovery. To me, this was evidence of organized fraud and access device fraud. "Elena, you have to see this guest list," Sloan said, her voice full of sick excitement. "High-end real estate brokers, tech CEOs. I'll catch the eye of one of them, and then I'll pay you back those few pennies I borrowed. Stop being such a buzzkill." Just then, my mother walked in with a tray of champagne. She looked at Sloan with worship, then turned to me with that familiar look of reproach. "Do you see, Elena? Your sister has more vision than you. She's investing in the future. You should feel honored to be part of this. Use your Mont Blanc pen to sign the deposit for the decorators. They need payment tonight." I looked at the Mont Blanc pen on the table, the pen I should have used to sign for my dream home. My finger traced its cold barrel. I picked it up, but not out of family loyalty. I was completing a federal transaction. In U.S. law, when you use electronic communication to commit financial fraud across state lines, and this decorator was based in California, it becomes wire fraud. This was the heaviest hammer I could drop on her. "Fine," I said, my voice so calm it even scared me. "I'll sign. I've also prepared a surprise gift for your birthday. It'll be something all your guests will remember forever." Sloan laughed, the sound as sharp as breaking glass. She leaned in and kissed my cheek, a fake kiss, smelling of expensive lipstick. She had no idea that our joint account was now a data trap. Every time she swiped for this party, my monitoring system automatically sent a copy of the evidence to a secure folder for the federal agents I had secretly contacted. I stood up and packed my bags. Sloan and my mother were still busy discussing lobster and truffles. They were celebrating on the ashes of my life, unaware that the real fire hadn't even started yet. Her birthday wouldn't have diamonds or ice, only cold justice and the click of handcuffs. I walked out to the balcony, looking down at the misty traffic. "Ready, Sloan? Your party is about to start." The night before Sloan's birthday, Seattle was swallowed by a fog so thick it gulped down the lights of the skyscrapers. I sat in my dark apartment, the only light coming from the blue glow of 3 computer monitors hitting my expressionless face. A glass of neat scotch sat on the table, but I didn't touch it. I needed the coldest head possible for this final move. I opened the financial management app that tracked every digital footprint Sloan had left. Every Hermes bag, every bottle of Ace of Spades champagne she ordered for tomorrow's party had been flagged as a fraudulent transaction in the internal system I'd linked to investigators. In America, when you commit fraud across state lines or use the federal banking system to profit from someone else's identity, it's no longer a civil dispute. It's a federal crime. To drive the final nail into Sloan's coffin, I sent one last text to the family group chat, which included my mother. "Sloan, I just saw an Amex notification for a $25,000 payment to the Four Seasons event planners. Are you sure you want me to confirm this as an authorized charge? If I hit confirm, you'll be legally responsible for this amount if there's a dispute later." It took 3 seconds for Sloan to reply with a string of laughing emojis. "Hit the button, coward. I told you, after tomorrow I'll have enough connections to pay you back double. Stop acting like a self-righteous lawyer. Confirm it now." My mother chimed in. "Just do it, Elena. Don't ruin your sister's moment in front of her friends. You're such a mood killer." I stared at the screen, a mix of disgust and relief washing over me. I screenshotted the conversation, the ultimate proof of intent and admission of fraud. I took a deep breath and pressed Submit Report on the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center, IC3 portal. Attached was a PDF nearly 200 pages long, ruined credit statements, forged signatures, text confessions, and the money trail from the joint account I had secretly redirected. I also included the fake affidavit Sloan signed via DocuSign, the one that would lock her in for perjury. "Done," I whispered into the darkness. In Sloan and my mother's world, family was a tool for emotional blackmail. In my world, evidence was the only thing with value. Tomorrow, when Sloane stepped onto her stage of vanity, she wouldn't see CEOs or new money cheering for her. She would see federal badges and the cold reality of a medium-security prison. I turned off the computer and finished my drink. The bitterness tasted strangely sweet. Tomorrow, justice would be served through a script Sloane never saw coming. Sloane's Diamonds and Ice party at the Four Seasons Ballroom was exactly what she craved. Extravagant, vain, and reeking of money. Money drained from my very soul. Crystal chandeliers reflected off-ice sculptures of dragons, creating a space that was cold yet arrogant. Sloane stood at the center of a circle of socialites, her jewel-encrusted gown making her look like the queen of lies. My mother stood beside her, face glowing with blind pride, holding a glass of the most expensive champagne. I walked into the hall in a minimalist black dress, looking completely out of place in the gaudiness. I didn't take a drink, I only held a jet black envelope. When Sloane saw me, she strutted over with a winning smirk. "Oh, look, our sponsor has arrived," Sloane said loudly enough for the nearby CEOs to hear. "Thanks for signing those bills, Elena. I promise to introduce you to some new friends so you don't have to be so lonely in that cramped rental anymore." Mom leaned in and whispered, "Don't ruin this, Elena. Today is your sister's day." I looked at my watch. Exactly 9 p.m. "I'm not here to ruin anything, Mom," I replied calmly. "I'm here to deliver the final gift." At that moment, the double doors of the ballroom burst open. It wasn't late guests, it was 6 men and women in dark suits, FBI badges gleaming under the lights. The room went dead silent. The jazz music cut out. Only the rhythmic footsteps of the agents on the marble floor remained. Agent Miller, whom I'd been working with for a week, walked straight to Sloane. "Sloane Vance?" Miller asked, his voice cutting through the thick air. Sloane went pale, the champagne glass trembling in her hand. "What's going on? This is a private party." "You're under arrest for federal financial fraud, identity theft, and perjury," Miller declared, pulling out cold steel handcuffs. "The total fraud exceeds $100,000, including the costs for this party. You have the right to remain silent." Sloane's scream was ear-piercing as the cuffs locked around her wrists, the ones wearing diamond bracelets. My mother rushed forward, wailing and grabbing at the agents, but she only received cold stares from the guests who had been flattering her moments ago. They backed away, looking at the 2 women as if they were a disease. I stood there, just 2 steps away from Sloane. I looked directly into her eyes, which were wide with terror and humiliation. I didn't feel smug. I only felt a profound peace. "You were right about one thing, Sloane," I whispered, just loud enough for her to hear. "You did take away my dream house, but the price you're paying is the rest of your life in disgrace. Happy birthday, sister." As the police led Sloane away through a line of whispering guests, I turned and walked toward the exit. Sloane's party was over, but the new chapter of my life was just beginning. A week after that fateful night at the Four Seasons, Seattle greeted me with a rare, clear morning. I sat in my law office, but this time, I wasn't working for a client. In front of me was my latest credit report from Experian. A radiant 810 flashed on the screen, a medal for my endurance. Thanks to the FBI arrest report and the federally verified identity theft files, every bit of trash debt Sloane left had been wiped from my history. Furthermore, the identity theft insurance I'd purchased years ago had finished processing my claim. The payout for financial losses and legal fees, combined with the money I'd recovered from the joint account earlier, added up to a massive sum. Sloane thought she'd stolen my dream house, but in reality, she only helped me upgrade it. My phone buzzed incessantly. It was Mom. I hit speakerphone just to hear the final echoes of a toxic past. "Elena, you are cold-blooded. Your sister is facing 10 years in prison. The lawyer says there's no way out because of the evidence you provided. How could you be so heartless? She's your own flesh and blood." I took a sip of tea, feeling the cool freshness spread. "Mom," I interrupted, my voice perfectly steady. "The night you told me to sacrifice my future for Sloane's designer bags, you officially gave up your right to be a mother. Sloane isn't going to jail because of me. She's going because of her own greed and your enablement. Don't call me again. I've filed a restraining order against both of you. If you set foot near my home, you'll be the next one to experience the American justice system." I hung up and blocked her number forever. A strange sense of relief washed over me. No regret, no pain, just absolute freedom. That afternoon, I stood in front of a brand new penthouse in Capitol Hill, with a view overlooking Puget Sound and the distant mountains. It was twice as large and far more luxurious than the house I had originally planned to buy. I pulled the Mont Blanc pen out of my pocket, the one I hadn't used for the old contract. This time, I put it to the purchase agreement with cold, sharp decisiveness. The dark black ink appeared on the pristine white paper, marking the start of a life that no one could touch again. Sloane was in a cramped cell, chewing on her shame, and my mother was likely selling off Sloane's last designer items just to pay rent. And me? I was standing at the peak of my life, where my credit and my honor were both spotless. In this country, justice might be late, but in the hands of a lawyer who knows how to wait, it arrives with the most devastating price. I smiled for the first time in a long time, a real smile.